If you own a Switch or a Switch 2 and you're wondering what games are actually worth your time and money, this is the video. I went through the library and picked 15 games that genuinely deliver. Let's get into it. Tears of the Kingdom picks up after Breath of the Wild, and right away it throws you into a mystery that reshapes everything you thought you knew about Hyrule. The world opens up vertically. Now there are sky islands above and dark underground depths below, and both feel completely different to explore. The big mechanic here is building. You get abilities that let you fuse objects together and construct machines, vehicles, contraptions, whatever your brain comes up with. The game basically hands you a physics sandbox and says, figure it out. Combat works the same way. You're always improvising. No two players are solving the same problem the same way. It's an open-world RPG adventure where creativity is literally your strongest weapon. The story pulls you forward without ever feeling like a chore. Metroid Prime Remastered. This one's a first-person adventure game where you play as bounty hunter Samus Aran, and you're dropped onto an alien planet that feels genuinely hostile from the moment you land. The game doesn't hold your hand. You're scanning environments, piecing together lore, figuring out where to go next through observation. The atmosphere is thick. Every room feels like it was designed to make you feel small and alone. Combat is tight and satisfying, and boss fights actually test how well you've been paying attention. The remaster cleaned everything up visually without changing what made it work. If you've never played the original, this is the version to experience. It's slower paced than most action games, but it rewards patience in a way that feels genuinely earned by the end. Hades 2 is a roguelike, where you play as Melinoë, daughter of Hades, fighting her way through layers of the underworld and beyond. Every run you die, you come back stronger, picking up boons from Greek gods who each change how your abilities work. The combat is fast, fluid, and deeply satisfying once it clicks. What keeps you coming back is the progression. Every death feeds into permanent upgrades, and the story actually moves forward through your attempts. Characters remember what happened, conversations evolve, the writing is sharp, and the voice acting is excellent. There's a massive amount of build variety depending on which weapons and boons you combine. It's the kind of game where you sit down for one run and suddenly it's been 3 hours. Mario Kart World takes the racing formula and stretches it across a massive open-world map between races. You're not just hopping from track to track anymore. There's a connected world you drive through to reach events. And the routes themselves change based on what you're doing. The roster is huge, the tracks are creative, and the item system is as chaotic as ever. Online play is smooth, and the game absolutely shines in multiplayer. Whether you're playing with friends on the couch or racing randoms online, the moment-to-moment racing feels refined and punchy. It's the most ambitious Mario Kart has ever been, and it actually delivers on that ambition, rather than just feeling bigger for the sake of it. Kirby and the Forgotten Land. Kirby's first full 3D platformer, and it nails the transition. You're exploring a post-apocalyptic world overrun by nature malls, stadiums, highways, all abandoned and reclaimed. The copyability system is back, and it's expanded, with upgrades that change how powers work as you level them up. The game has a relaxed difficulty that makes it accessible, but there are optional challenges that genuinely push you. There's also a mode where a second player can join as a helper, which makes it a great co-op experience. The world design is surprisingly thoughtful for a Kirby game. Each area has its own identity, and there's always something to discover off the main path. It's joyful, colorful, and consistently fun from start to finish. Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade. This is a reimagining of the classic FF7, but it's not a straight remake. It expands and reinterprets the Midgar section of the original into a full game. You play as Cloud, a mercenary caught up in a resistance movement against a mega corporation draining the planet's energy. The combat mixes real-time action with a tactical pause system where you slow time to issue commands and use abilities. Each character controls differently, and switching between them mid-fight adds depth. The story is dense, character-driven, and goes places the original didn't. Visually, it's stunning. The Intergrade version adds a separate chapter focused on Yuffie that's worth playing on its own. If you've never touched Final Fantasy before, this is a solid entry point.
That hunk of junk is a heavy weapons platform. If we rush in, we die.
Is that right?
Donkey Kong Bananza brings DK back in a fully 3D platformer built around destruction. Almost everything in the environment can be broken. You punch through terrain, rip out chunks of the world, carve your own paths through levels. It's a physics-heavy platformer where brute force is actually your navigation tool. The levels are layered and reward digging deeper, literally. There's a partner mechanic where Pauline joins DK and her abilities complement the gameplay in ways that open up new options. It's loud, it's physical, it's satisfying in a way that feels totally different from Mario's more precise platforming. The game leans hard into momentum and chaos, and it commits to that energy throughout. One of the freshest platformers on the system.
They can run. Jump! And climb through each environment.
Fire Emblem Three Houses is a tactical RPG set in a military academy, and the dual structure of the game is what makes it stand out. Half your time is spent in the academy, building relationships with students, teaching classes, exploring the grounds. The other half is turn-based strategy combat on grid maps where positioning and unit management decide everything. The story branches depending on which of the three houses you choose to lead, and each route tells a meaningfully different version of events. The characters are well written, and the relationships you build actually affect how the story lands. It's a long game, easily 60 to 80 hours per route, but it earns that time. Strategy fans and story fans both get a lot out of it. Super Mario Odyssey sends Mario across a series of wildly different kingdoms, from a city that looks like New York, to a desert with giant cacti, to a cooking-themed world. The main mechanic is Cappy, Mario's hat, which you can throw to possess enemies and objects. Possessing things is the core of the game's creativity. Every kingdom introduces new things to take over, and each one changes how you move and interact with the world. The game is packed with moons to collect, and the density of secrets is genuinely impressive. It's one of those games where you finish a world and then realize you missed half of it. The controls feel perfect, the worlds are imaginative, and the whole thing has an energy to it that stays consistent all the way through. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is a massive JRPG with a real-time combat system that builds on what the previous games established. You control a party of 6 characters, and combat is about managing positions, cooldowns, and class roles simultaneously. The world is enormous and densely packed with side content, optional areas, and hidden quests. The story follows soldiers from 2 warring nations who are forced to work together, and it deals with themes around mortality, purpose, and what it means to live in a world designed to consume you. It's heavy stuff, handled well. The game rewards players who engage with its systems deeply. There's a class switching mechanic that gives every character access to different roles over time. It's a long commitment, but one of the most rewarding JRPGs available on the platform. The Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild redefined what open-world games could feel like. You wake up with no memory, a crumbling world to explore, and almost total freedom from the first hour. The physics and chemistry engine underpins everything fire spreads, wind affects movement, electricity conducts through metal, temperature matters in certain areas. You can climb almost anything and glide from heights. Shrines scattered across the map serve as bite-sized puzzle and combat challenges, each with their own logic. The game never tells you where to go. You look at the world, pick a direction, and explore. It's a design philosophy that puts curiosity at the center of the experience. Years after release, it still holds up as one of the best examples of how open-world design should work. Hollow Knight Silksong follows Hornet, a character from the original Hollow Knight, as she arrives in a vast new kingdom and tries to reach a mysterious citadel at its peak. The game is a 2D action platformer with tight controls, challenging combat, and a world that unfolds through exploration rather than guided progression. Hornet plays faster and more aggressively than the knight from the original, with a toolkit built around silk and needles. The kingdom is designed with the same attention to atmosphere and interconnected layout that made the first game beloved. Boss fights are demanding and satisfying. The environmental storytelling is layered. The world has history that you piece together passively as you move through it. It's a hardcore platformer that respects your intelligence and punishes sloppiness. Cyberpunk 2077 on Switch 2 is the full experience Night City. All the expansions, everything. You play as V, a mercenary in a hyper-corporatized future city, trying to survive a situation that gets complicated fast. The game is a first-person RPG with a deep character build system you can spec into hacking, stealth, raw combat, or blends of all three. Night City itself is the real achievement. It's dense, reactive, and full of stories happening in every corner. The main narrative is emotionally grounded in a way that's rare for open-world games. The Phantom Liberty expansion adds a spy thriller storyline that stands as some of the best writing in the genre. The Switch 2 version runs it all smoothly, and the game finally reaches the audience it was always meant for.
What now?
Nothing. They'll scan us and check our papers.
Okay.
I'll do the talking.
Resident Evil Requiem is survival horror built around resource management and tension. You're never powerful enough to feel safe, and the game knows it. Ammunition is scarce, enemies are durable, and the environments are designed to keep you uncomfortable. The story follows a new protagonist navigating a crisis that connects back to the series' history in ways that longtime fans will appreciate, while remaining accessible to newcomers. The over-the-shoulder camera and combat are refined from RE4's template, precise, weighty, and satisfying when you land shots. Environmental puzzles break up the action, and the pacing keeps you from settling into a rhythm for too long. Horror fans will find a lot to love here. It's tense, well-crafted, and genuinely scary in the way the best RE games always are. Pokémon Pokopia takes a bold step away from the classic formula and delivers something that feels fresh without losing the soul of the series. Instead of focusing on battles and progression through gyms, the game leans into exploration, creativity, and building a living world alongside Pokémon. You play in a quiet, post-human setting where restoring nature becomes the core motivation, and that shift in tone makes the experience feel more personal and relaxing. The mechanics revolve around gathering resources, shaping environments, and using Pokémon abilities in meaningful ways, which creates a satisfying loop that rewards experimentation rather than grind. What stands out most is how natural everything feels. Pokémon aren't just tools, but part of the ecosystem you're rebuilding. That's the list. 15 games worth your time on Switch and Switch 2. Whether you're into action, RPGs, horror, or racing, there's something here for you. Drop your favorites in the comments. See you in the next one.